The manhwa begins under a moonlit sky, where a man declares that the time has come. He reflects on how, even after the demonic sect annihilated his clan, the sole reason they endured and kept going was to exact revenge. Standing atop a tree branch, he leaps over a wall, revealing a fire burning below. A guard is stationed nearby. Suddenly, shadowy hands emerge, making the guard jerk around in confusion. The man remarks that it won't be long before the missing sentry is noticed, but he intends to finish everything before that happens. The bloodshed continues. Meanwhile, inside, an old man comments on how noisy it is outside. When he looks up, we see his eyes are a deep, dark red. The man outside mocks him, saying that it's typical of him to be calmly meditating while his men are being slaughtered, just as heartless as ever. The old man responds coldly, saying the same could be said of his attacker, rampaging without knowing the full picture. He adds that calling him heartless is meaningless. Does a man ever care about the insects beneath his feet as he climbs a mountain? Of course he wouldn't care. His eyes would be fixed on the peak ahead. That's the only way someone can reach the pinnacle of martial arts. The man scoffs at this idea, calling it nonsense, and we finally learn his name, Kang Wonchun. He declares that he'll kill the old man with his own hands today. At that moment, it's revealed that the old man is none other than the heavenly demon. Wonchun charges forward, his hand glowing with a blue aura as he begins summoning lightning. The technique is called the Heavenly Lightning Fist. He launches his attack straight at the heavenly demon's face, but the old man simply laughs and asks if that's the best he can do. He then begins to counter with his own martial art, known as the Heavenly Blood-Tide Art, and tells Wonchun to watch closely. The heavenly demon releases an energy beam that clashes directly with Wonchun's lightning-charged fist. Unsurprisingly, the heavenly demon overpowers him. The beam tears through Wonchun's attack, injuring his face. Wonchun instantly recognizes it as a sword ki blast. The heavenly demon coldly states that he'll be sending Wonchun to meet his father today. It's over. But Wonchun has other plans. Just as the heavenly demon begins to lower his guard, Wonchun initiates another technique. The old man's eyes widen in surprise as Wonchun counters with a heavenly divine palm, shattering the energy beam. Shocked, the heavenly demon exclaims that he can't believe Wonchun's steel tempering, making his fists harder than steel, was overcome with bare hands. Wonchun presses on, continuing his assault. Wonchun drives his fist straight into the heavenly demon's chest, sending lightning coursing through his entire body and launching him into the wall behind. Breathing heavily, Wonchun warns him to stop mentioning his father with that filthy mouth. He reminds the old man that he hasn't forgotten all the terrible things he's done in his lifetime, and that this is the collective fury of everyone he's wronged. The heavenly demon growls that he should have wiped out the Cloud Dragon sect to its very roots back then. He admits he doesn't know what kind of enlightenment Wonchun gained, but he's genuinely surprised. He never imagined anyone could break through his heavenly demon blood surge art. Left with no other option, he pulls out a mysterious gourd. Wonchun immediately questions if that's an elixir, just as the old man starts chugging it down like a potion. Wonchun warns him, drinking an elixir of that magnitude all at once could cause demonic chi deviation. Suddenly, a surge of purple energy bursts from the shattered gourd as the heavenly demon begins powering up, his chi now overflowing. But the energy is too intense and the strain becomes visible in his face. His eyes bulge and with a furious roar, he releases a powerful shockwave that rips through the air. Wonchun instinctively raises his arms to shield himself from the violent gust of wind blasting past him. Wonchun can't believe what he's seeing, then suddenly hears the heavenly demon calling out to him, from behind. As he turns, the attack is already closing in. The heavenly demon declares that it's time for Wonchun to vanish. Wonchun realizes it's too late to dodge, until someone else suddenly casts a spell. A barrier forms just in time, shielding Wonchun from the deadly blow. He recognizes the protective shield and is stunned. Moments later, a man enters the scene, apologizing for showing up late and saying he got distracted goofing off. Wonchun calls him the Great Mage, but the man waves it off, annoyed, saying he told him not to use such a cheesy nickname. Then he looks at the heavenly demon and asks if this is the nemesis Wonchun had mentioned. Wonchun confirms it, saying this is the guy who claims to have come from another world, and if it weren't for him he would have been killed just now. Then the scene suddenly shifts, cutting to a man in the real world yelling, "Wait!" He's visibly frustrated, saying he thought this was just a standard Muram story. Now he's wondering why the hell a random high-level mage from another world just showed up out of nowhere. He sighs, disappointed, saying the story was getting good until it took this weird turn. He even jokes that the author must be on fentanyl for adding another world out of nowhere. We're introduced to this man, His name is Jin Se-woong and he's 23 years old. His phone starts buzzing. We learn that he was discharged from the military 6 months ago and is currently preparing to return to college. One of his friends messages him, asking if he's up for grinding some ranked matches. Se-woong just sighs, wondering if his buddy seriously has no one else to play with. He explains that, like many others finishing their military service, he had a solid plan for his life before being discharged. He intended to earn some certifications, get ready to go back to college, and finally study everything he couldn't while in the military. But once he got back, he realized he'd missed out on too many fun things in society. As he heads into town, he notes that he still has some money left but is considering getting a part-time job. Being a hardcore Muram novel fan, he often finds himself daydreaming about being the main character in a Muram world. He walks into a PC cafe, where the cashier greets him by name and asks if he's heading to Loyal Ground again today. Se-woong confirms and says he wants 10 hours. He spent countless hours on Loyal Ground. It was the only game he played during his military leaves, and after getting out he started grinding seriously. In just 3 months he made it into the top 10 ranking players. He logs into Discord and tells his friend to wait for him in the lobby, he's coming online. He's also made some extra cash from occasional tournaments held in the internet cafes. The game itself is straightforward. 100 players drop from a plane onto a map, scavenge for weapons, and fight until only one is left standing. He's clearly playing PUBG. He calls out the enemy coordinates to his teammate, telling him to look toward 120 on the compass at the top of the screen. He opens fire and takes both enemies out instantly with clean double headshots. His teammate yells out in excitement, saying there are only 2 enemies left now. Se-woong tells him he's way too loud for someone who already died once and jokes that he should stop yapping so much. He says they should focus on looting and surviving for now. They need to secure the safe zone before making any moves. His teammate agrees and says he's putting all his trust in Se-woong. As the circle closes in, we cut to another group of players moving cautiously toward a building. They slowly enter through the door and spot some loot on the floor, like a first aid kit. One of them comments that since the loot is still there, it doesn't look like anyone's been inside. But of course it's a trap. Anyone who's played PUBG would recognize it immediately. As one of the players moves in to grab the free loot, we see Se-woong's character crouched in the corner, full-on camping the spot. Gunshots ring out. The second player outside hears the shots and realizes his teammate's been killed. Shocked, he says he can't believe the enemy was hiding inside the whole time. He tries to run away instead of avenging his teammate, but as he turns he gets shot in the back of the head. He's now the last one standing. He's won the chicken dinner. Se-woong lets out a sigh while his friend thanks him for carrying the game. Se-woong just tells him to queue up again, but adds that he really needs to lock in and start studying tomorrow. It's the kind of thing we've all said before. Classic procrastination. Then a notification pops up on his phone. He looks down and reads a message asking if he's been studying well. The sender says they've transferred his academy fees along with a little extra for food, and apologizes for not being able to send more. Se-woong replies with a thank you. We learn it's from his mom, and says he's going to sleep soon. He then turns to his friend and says he's done playing, starting tomorrow. But his friend reminds him they had planned to join a clan war together. Se-woong tells him he can't. He's enrolling in an English academy. Every time he reads one of his mom's messages, he feels a wave of guilt. He's been living like this, stuck in limbo, for months now. That night, back in his apartment, he ends up doom scrolling on his phone. Among the videos and shorts, he comes across clips about mysterious individuals being spotted overseas, people claiming to possess strange powers and referring to themselves as players. Se-woong says that when he tried clicking the video to learn more, it was suddenly deleted. Strange, but he shrugs it off and decides to get some sleep. The next morning, as he heads out for the academy, his friend calls, saying they should start prepping for the upcoming clan war. Se-woong agrees to help him out with one final game. But just then, a strange purple light begins to glow behind him. He turns around, completely stunned, wondering what's happening. The light quickly engulfs him and his backpack drops to the ground. He vanishes without a trace. As the light surrounds him, Se-woong starts to panic, questioning what that light was. He had just committed himself to finally start studying. Was this some kind of punishment for deciding too late? When he slowly opens his eyes, he hears people speaking Russian around him and wonders why everything is suddenly so loud. Looking ahead, he sees people fighting with swords and casting spells. Completely confused, he asks himself what the hell he's looking at and why there are so many people dressed like cosplayers. As he watches them casting actual magic, he begins to wonder if this might just be a dream. Still disoriented, he looks around and spots a statue. Then out of nowhere, a voice echoes in his head, 100 players have been detected. Sewung's confusion only deepens as he realizes he's hearing a voice directly in his mind, and it's kind of loud. The statue's eyes start to glow as it announces that the system is initializing. A similar blue glow appears in Sewung's eyes as he stands there, completely baffled by what's happening. Then the system voice continues, synchronizing language. The Russian Sewung was hearing before is now being directly translated into Korean. A large guy standing in front of him remarks that everyone's suddenly speaking his language now. Around them, characters from what looks like a Murim setting start chatting, even casually talking about sex. Among them are two mages mid-argument. One of them, named Chiron, accuses the other, Escrow, of bringing him here. But Escrow fires back, saying that's exactly what he was about to ask him. Escrow calls Chiron shameless and says he's not falling for his lies anymore. Chiron calmly responds that whether Escrow believes him or not doesn't matter. Everyone will eventually kneel before the Demon King's power. Escrow, angered, raises his hand, summoning lightning. As an archmage, he swears he'll kill Chiron here and then take down the Demon King himself. He unleashes a spell called Escrow-style lightning, striking Chiron directly. But to his shock, Chiron emerges completely unharmed. Escrow, now clearly rattled, insists that Chiron must be the one who dragged him here. Meanwhile, Sewung watches everything unfold, starting to realize that this is far too vivid and coherent to be a dream. The statue then speaks, announcing the start of the game. The difficulty is set to easy, the players just need to make it into the top 90. The selected map is the capital city of the King Kingdom. Rewards will be given to players who finish in the top 10 and above. The system also announces it will skip the tutorial and reminds players that no combat is allowed in the waiting room. All attacks are neutralized. A map appears before Sewung. The statue continues, saying that for those entering Cloyd Survival for the first time, it will now give a brief explanation. The game will last for a total of 100 years, and with each passing day the playable area on the map will gradually shrink. If someone steps outside this restricted zone, they might suffer serious harm, so they must proceed with caution. The game will go on until only one survivor remains. Once the game ends or a player is eliminated, they will return to their original world. Players who fail to reach the top 90 rankings will no longer be allowed to participate in Cloyd Survival again. Soon, with the assistance of Argus's gaze, players will descend to the location they have chosen. There, they can acquire items that might help them secure a spot in the top 90. Argus wishes them luck in their efforts. Sewung wonders if he is dreaming of loyal ground right now. The status window indicates that rewards will be given to those ranked in the top 10 or higher. Sewung begins to sweat nervously, thinking that even if this is a dream, being surrounded by all these completely insane people is terrifying. One of them is even licking his knife. What a lunatic. Sewung is certain that he's going to die. He says that even if this is only a dream, he doesn't want to die. And if this really is like the game, before he can finish his thought, someone suddenly calls out to him, referring to him as messy hair. The man asks why he keeps looking around and questions where he's from. Sewung remains silent. The man swings his blade at him, asking if he's being ignored. The countdown for the game begins and the man grins. He asks why Sewung is smiling in a situation like this and calls him insane. As the countdown hits 1, Sewung replies that the reason he's smiling is very simple. He's having such a fun dream, so why shouldn't he enjoy it? With his knowledge of the game, which he refers to as log, he knows that defeating bastards like this and surviving will be easy. It's now day 1 of Cloyd Survival, and all the players begin dropping in from above, not from an actual airship, but simply descending through the air, surrounded by glowing auras. Sewung notices where a nearby dwarf is looking and realizes that most people are aiming for the densely populated zones, areas packed with loot. As expected from the game, those hot zones do have more items, but Sewung decides it's smarter to land on the outskirts and stay safe. He spots a house in the distance and thinks that should work. Yelling, "Descend!" he dives straight down toward the ground. As he plummets, he starts screaming in panic, and lands in a classic superhero pose. Luckily he's completely unharmed. But he doesn't move right away. Instead, he clutches his stomach, trying to keep from vomiting. His motion sickness is kicking in hard. For now, he tells himself he just needs to get inside the house. Suddenly, he hears rustling in the bushes nearby and freezes in alarm. Realizing he couldn't see who landed near him because of the nausea, he panics and bolts toward the house, sprinting straight through the front door. Once inside, he slams the door shut behind him. Gasping for air and clutching his chest, he mutters that if he runs into someone without a weapon he's done for. He then wonders if the guy from earlier, the one with the sword, is the one who landed near him, regretting that he might have provoked the wrong person. He glances out the window, sees no one, and assumes it was just the wind. Fortunately, everything seems quiet now, so he decides it's safe to move on. It's time to start searching the house for loot. After all, in this game you get items based on where you land. As he steps forward, something catches his eye on the floor. Looking down, a message appears. He's obtained a heavy crossbow. He immediately comments that it's way too heavy, but still, it's better than having nothing. Reaching for the nearby quiver, he grabs an arrow and notes that as he equips it, the knowledge of how to use it flows naturally into his mind. He begins loading it instinctively. For a former South Korean army sergeant like him, handling something like this is no big deal. All he has to do is squeeze the trigger, and when he does, the crossbow fires with incredible force, piercing halfway through the wall and launching him backward. Stunned by its power, he stares at the bolt embedded deep in the wood. If he can master using it, this weapon could be a serious asset. He keeps looking around but doesn't find anything else in the house. With the map being so large, he decides to move quickly and head toward other buildings. As long as he doesn't run into any enemies early on, he can safely farm the area. Approaching another house cautiously, he raises his crossbow and starts clearing it room by room. On a table he spots a scroll. Curious, he walks over and a message appears. He's obtained a healing scroll. It's small and if torn it will heal his injuries. He's amazed that something like this exists and tells himself he needs to find more recovery items. He also wishes he had an item bag to carry more gear. Just then he notices a glowing purple book on a nearby shelf. When he picks it up, another notification appears. You have obtained the Black Star Leader's Martial Arts Manual. It's a martial art that allows him to channel dark energy through his fingertips, and a prompt appears asking if he wants to learn it. He wonders if accepting will trigger some kind of tutorial, but the moment he hits accept, the book begins to glow brightly and the pages flip rapidly right in front of his face. Then, the book starts to dissolve into particles of light. He stares down at his hands, confused, wondering if that was really it. As he focuses on his palm, he begins to feel the energy slowly building, stronger and stronger with each passing second. To test it out, he grabs a fork from the table, infuses it with the new energy, and hurls it with full force at the wall. The fork slams into the wall, piercing deep into it. He smiles, amazed that he just learned a martial art from a book. Walking over to retrieve the fork, he says this ability is going to be incredibly useful. The fact that martial arts manuals exist means magic books might too. Either way, he's becoming more convinced that Cloyd Survival and Loyal Ground are essentially the same game. Having searched the entire building, he decides it's time to move on. The scene cuts to a bit later, and he notes that the sun has already risen while he was busy looting. Now he needs to quickly find somewhere to hide. Up ahead, he spots a house with its lights still on. That can only mean one of two things. Either there's a rare item hidden inside, or someone's in there. Carefully, he approaches and steps inside, trying his best not to make a sound. He admits he's not sure how many people landed nearby, but if someone is in this house, they're either a total beginner or a skilled veteran. The first floor is completely silent, which makes him uneasy. Maybe they're hiding upstairs. He reassures himself that he has a weapon, and if he manages to ambush them using the Black Star technique, he might be able to win, even against a pro. Slowly, carefully, he climbs the stairs, doing his best not to make a sound. Crossbow at the ready, he spots something at the top, a lantern sitting just outside a nearby room. He suspects it could be a trap, someone could be waiting inside. But instead of hesitating, he decides to go for it. He kicks the door open, revealing a bedroom. Looking around, he realizes he got all worked up for nothing. No one's there. He breathes a sigh of relief, saying at least he put on a good solo performance. On the bedside table, he notices a ring and picks it up, wondering if it's a usable item. A message appears. Ring of Strength, increases strength by 20 when equipped. Curious if it really works, he slips it onto his index finger. Instantly, he feels a strange sensation. His body suddenly feels lighter. The crossbow, which had been weighing him down earlier, now feels almost weightless. If his strength really increased by 20, he figures he should check his stats. He starts fumbling through commands, trying different phrases until a status window finally pops up. He looks it over and chuckles. His overall stats are still pretty pathetic. He suspects he's only labeled as a martial artist because of the one technique he learned. Even so, he says it's actually pretty cool. Compared to when he started with nothing, this is a solid start. and he's eager to go back and properly loot the rest of the first floor. He comes across a subspace ring, exactly the item he had been wishing for earlier. He chuckles, noting how convenient it is that he keeps finding rings lately. The status window explains how it works. To store an item, he just needs to hold it and either say or think the word subspace. If he uses his other hand to touch the ring while thinking of the item, it will be stored. Items can also be retrieved the same way, but if the subspace is full, nothing else can be added. He remarks that it's basically just like a video game inventory system, and clearly, in this world they use things like this instead of backpacks. He activates the subspace and a glowing interface opens up in front of him. It feels weird at first, but as he places the healing scroll inside, he admits it's incredibly convenient. No more carrying everything around physically. He even wishes he had something like this in real life. It would make everything so much easier. Not to mention how useful martial arts and magic items would be if he could bring them back to the real world. He starts to wonder if anyone has been eliminated yet. Looking at the interface, he figures there must be a kill log somewhere. He eventually finds it and sees that only one person has been eliminated so far. His original plan was to keep farming until only 90 players remained, and he's managed to loot several houses and collect a good stockpile of consumables. He's also been lucky enough to pick up multiple hidden weapons, which he can now combine with his Black Star martial arts. Feeling satisfied, he thinks he's probably cleared everything useful in the area. Maybe it's time to move on, or better yet, wait here until sunrise when it's safer to travel. The powerful players he saw earlier in the waiting room are now roaming through the darkness, and with his current level, there's no way he can take them on. But if he stays hidden and manages to reach the top 10, he can keep earning valuable stat points, just like he did today. He figures there will be fewer people moving around at night, so it might be worth the risk to check out another area before sunrise. If he's lucky, he might find a good spot to loot. As he sets off, he notes that despite moving around non-stop, he doesn't feel tired at all. The Ring of Strength is doing wonders. However, even with the boost to his stats, he still feels hunger and thirst, meaning Cloyd's survival might closely mimic real-life conditions. He tells himself he needs to find something to eat. The city should have supplies, and according to the map, it should be somewhere nearby. But he's puzzled. Where are all the houses? Suddenly, a low growl cuts through the air. He hears it too, coming from right behind him. Without thinking, he dives into a nearby bush and hides, realizing he didn't hear a single sound until the creature was already close. Peeking out cautiously, he sees it in the distance and immediately breaks into a nervous sweat. It's not just any animal, it's a werewolf. And to make matters worse, there's another one standing right beside it. As he looks up, one of the werewolves lunges at him. He narrowly dodges, and the beast's attack completely shatters a nearby tree. Now, there are two of them locked onto him, staring him down like a couple of maniacs after a 48-hour gaming binge. He mutters to himself that he thought this was a PvP game. He didn't expect monsters to be part of it. If he had known creatures like this were out here, he would have just stayed put. After all, he's technically a ranker, and dying to a random mob would be beyond embarrassing. In the distance, he spots a house. Without hesitation, he makes a run for it and manages to slip inside, slamming the door behind him, breathing heavily. He can hear the werewolves prowling just outside and wonders if they're really going to try to break in. As they approach, he begins to think through his options. Cracking the door open just slightly, he sees one of them sniffing around outside. Based on its behavior, he guesses it's tracking his scent. If that's the case, then he'll strike first. He readies his crossbow, aims carefully through the gap in the door, and when the shot lines up, he fires. The bolt zips through the woods and sinks into the side of the werewolf's skull. The creature collapses and starts dissolving into the air. "That's one down," he says with relief. Thanks to the Ring of Strength, he can fire one-handed. Now all that's left is to take care of the last one. Now that he's reloaded, he turns to check where the other werewolf is, only to be shocked to see it standing right at the doorway. In a split second, it smashes through, slashing his cheek as it crashes in like the Kool-Aid Man. Panic hits him as the beast charges in for a follow-up attack. He quickly raises the crossbow and fires, but the werewolf blocks the bolt with its arm. The crossbow falls from his hands as the creature lunges again, ready to finish him off. For a moment he wonders if this is how he gets eliminated. But then he grits his teeth. Not yet. He activates his subspace and pulls out the first weapon he can get his hands on. It might even be a spoon. Still, he channels his Black Star martial arts into it and hurls it forward. The improvised weapon pierces clean through the werewolf and buries itself in the wall behind it. As the creature begins to dissolve into particles, Sewong mutters, "There's no way I'm losing to a basic mob." He exhales in relief, the tension releasing all at once. Dropping to his knees, he thanks God he had stashed that throwing dagger earlier. If he'd died to a couple of low-tier monsters, it would have been humiliating. Then he spots a small pouch on the floor. It must be a mob drop. Excited, he opens it, only to find water and jerky. Disappointed, he sighs and says he guesses hunting for food is part of the game too, though he'd hoped for something better. As he starts munching on the jerky, he considers checking out the rest of the building. While exploring, he finds a piece of armor and guesses it's probably the in-game equivalent of a bulletproof vest from Log. He puts the armor on, noting that it feels a bit big, until it instantly adjusts to fit his body perfectly. A status window pops up, revealing it's an advanced orichalcum breastplate, and it significantly boosts his resistance to fire and wind magic. He grins impressed. This piece didn't just raise 1 or 2 stats, it gave a solid upgrade across the board. He figures there must be more valuable items nearby. As he starts searching the room, he bumps his knee against something, but when he looks down, nothing's there. Curious, he kicks the ground in front of him, thinking it might be a hidden item. Sure enough, he feels something soft, like cloth, and picks it up. After equipping it, the status window reveals it's the night cloak. When worn, it allows the user to completely blend into the darkness if they stay still. While hidden, they can't be detected by magic, and even their movements are completely silent. He immediately compares it to something out of Harry Potter. This is the perfect survival item, he realizes. With this cloak, he can avoid anyone during the night, making it ideal for staying alive. He finally understands why there was a random house out here in the woods. It was a hidden farming spot. And judging by what he's found, his luck tonight is off the charts. Still nighttime, he walks cautiously through the forest, noting that he hasn't seen a single other player. He figures it might be because he landed in a random drop zone. Then, on cue, he hears someone approaching behind him. A man stumbles through the trees, clothes torn and face frantic, shouting that he just needed a little more time to use something. Sewong immediately throws on the night cloak and hides in the bushes. The man, unaware of his presence, keeps muttering in disbelief, "I can't believe I ran into a mage here." Sewong observes the man carefully. He doesn't seem strong, and if he's right, he could probably take him out. But as the guy starts walking away, Sewong tries to steady himself. "Calm down. This isn't a real person. It's just a game," he tells himself. Still, he hesitates, unsure why he can't bring himself to shoot. Suddenly, a spell called Escrow's Flame blasts past him, scorching the ground nearby. Startled, Sewong turns and sees the man from earlier get hit square in the back. That backshot was brutal, flames erupting on impact. Sewong wonders if the guy is dead, and then notices that there's no corpse, just a loot chest. That confirms it, this really is a game. The chest must hold all the items the player had. But now he's questioning, where did that flame even come from? He turns and sees a man with a large nose standing nearby. The stranger mutters in frustration, saying he can't believe someone without even a hint of magical ability dared to steal from him. He calls the dead player unlucky. If he'd been killed by a sword, at least it wouldn't have been as agonizing as being burned alive. Sewong, still cloaked by the night cloak, realizes the man didn't notice him at all as he passed. This cloak really is broken, he thinks. The mage then smugly says that the player should feel honored to have died by his hand. Though oddly, he refers to himself as Chiron. Sewong makes a mental note. There's some confusion around names here. The big-nosed mage begins rifling through the loot. Sewong watches quietly, thinking, that player was just like me. And if I'm not careful, I'll be next. One moment of hesitation, and someone will kill me and take my place on the leaderboard. If he truly wants to survive, he knows what he has to do. As the mage sorts through the items, a bolt suddenly shoots from behind and hits his barrier, making him turn in shock. Cracks ripple across the magical shield. He grits his teeth, wondering if he made too much noise. This is all that bastard's fault, he mutters. Sewong, still hidden in the night cloak, raises his crossbow again and fires another shot. It slams into the barrier, deepening the cracks. The mage realizes the shield won't last much longer if the attacks continue. Frustrated, he shouts into the forest, demanding to know where his attacker is. "Stop hiding like a coward. Show yourself," he yells. But instead of an answer, a throwing knife silently flies out from the bushes, slicing through the air and heading straight for his side. When the mage turns after hearing the sound, his barrier manages to absorb the attack, but it shatters completely in the process. Now visibly panicked, he keeps shouting, demanding to know where his attacker is hiding. Meanwhile, Sewong silently raises his crossbow again, preparing to fire. Big Nose begins casting another Escrow's Flame spell, but before he can finish the incantation, a throwing knife slams directly into his forehead. Tears stream from his eyes as his final moments are spent trying to complete the spell, before his head vanishes completely from the force of the blow. Sewong is stunned. He actually won. 2 loot chests now lie on the ground. Realizing the fire and commotion might attract other players, he quickly decides to loot and get out. He starts with Big Nose's chest, tossing nearly everything into his subspace ring in a hurry. Among the items he finds another healing scroll and something called Escrow's necklace, which marks the wearer as a mage of the Escrow Magic Society, finally clearing up the earlier name confusion. He notes that the necklace itself has no magical properties and decides to stash it for now. As he continues digging through the loot, one item catches his eye, the Circle Stone. It's a magical artifact that allows the user to engrave a mana circle around their heart, enabling them to use magic. Once the circle is engraved, they can learn and cast spells tied to it. Sewong wonders aloud, could I really become a mage just like this? He suddenly recalls the words of the man who had been fleeing earlier, who cried out that he just needed more time to use something. Now it makes sense. Sewong quietly says he's sorry, but promises to put the item to good use in that guy's place. He tosses the rest of the loot into his inventory, planning to inspect it later from a safer location. Continuing deeper into the forest, he climbs a hill and surveys the area until he spots a few houses in the distance. He makes his way toward them, saying it looks like a good spot. Inside one of the buildings, a prompt appears asking if he's sure he wants to use the Circle Stone. Without hesitation he confirms. The system warns him. Once the Circle Stone is activated, he must remain completely still for 3 hours. During that time he won't be able to move, use any items or take any actions, and the process will include some mild pain as the magic circle is engraved into his body. Almost immediately, an intense pain erupts in his chest. Sewong clenches his jaw, fighting back the urge to scream, and endures the next 3 hours in absolute agony. We see him collapsed on the floor, drooling and trembling. He mutters that it was supposed to be slight pain, but it felt like he was being cooked alive. Learning martial arts was nothing compared to this. Magic, it turns out, comes at a much higher price. Once the process is over, he opens his status window and sees something new. He now holds 2 classes simultaneously and he's even gained a monostat. Impressed, he says it was worth it. He figures that, since he killed 2 people recently, the total number of survivors must have gone down. Curious, he checks the current player count, and is shocked. It's dropped drastically, only 45 out of 100 remain. He stares at the screen, asking how this is even possible. One name dominates the kill feed, Nam Sagwang. Apparently, this person is wiping out nearly everyone. We're then taken to a flashback from a few hours earlier. A man stands perched on a treetop, gazing down at others like a predator. He licks his lips as he locks onto his next target. Despite his intimidating size, the man below stumbles over a rock, an oddly comical moment given the tension. The target turns and pleads, saying he only wants to make it into the top 90. Without a word, Sagwang raises his hand, reaching out calmly as the man begs for mercy. Then, with a horrifying motion, he crushes the man's head like a zit. As the lifeless body drops, Sagwang doesn't even bother to loot it. He simply mutters that this kill was just to send a message. He wants everyone to remember his name. He is Sagwang. Back in the present, it's now day 3. Sewong receives a system notification and shakes his head in disbelief at how many players died in a single night. One thought lingers in his mind. I seriously hope I never run into Sagwang. He then reflects that if things continue at this pace, he might actually have a shot at making it into the top 10. Before the game started, they'd announced a special reward for reaching that rank, and now he's starting to wonder what it could be. His first guess is money or rare items, but what if it's something even crazier? What if the reward is the ability to bring the skills and items from this world back into the real one? He sighs, reminding himself that there's a lunatic killer on the loose outside, and here he is daydreaming. He needs to stay focused, wrap things up, and get moving soon. Still, he can't ignore the energy he feels pulsing inside him now. It's like something new has awakened. Is this what mana feels like? He wonders. He recalls that during his looting spree yesterday, he also picked up a spell book, the Magic Book of Windball. It allows the user to create wind-based spheres, and the number he can summon scales with his magical power. Excited, he mutters, "I knew it," and accepts the prompt to learn the spell. The book instantly vanishes. Confused at first, he asks, "That's it?" But then he realizes, the knowledge of the spell is being directly implanted into his mind. He raises his hand and begins chanting in the style of escrow magic, channeling mana into his palm. as he focuses for wind balls materialize around him. At first glance he's unimpressed. They don't look all that powerful. He gestures to flick them away, and the moment they drift back and hit the wall, they explode in a massive blast behind him. Eyes wide, he exclaims that the spell is way stronger than it looks. This is definitely going to be useful. But then fatigue hits him hard. Suddenly he feels drained. Guess that's the cost of using magic, he mutters. As time passed, a restricted zone began to appear on Se-Woong's map, and the grid started to shrink. He decided to keep farming while staying close to the edges of the safe zone. With half the players already eliminated, the odds of running into someone should be much lower, but he still needs to move fast and gather resources before the boundary closes in further. Unbeknownst to him, an old man is perched silently atop a tree nearby, watching his every move. He hasn't moved an inch yet, just observing Se-Woong as he walks down the path. The man murmurs, "This is getting interesting," before finally leaping forward. Time skips ahead, half a day later. Se-Woong recalls seeing houses in this area on the map, but when he arrives he's met with a disturbing sight. The entire place is littered with loot boxes and bloodstains. Suddenly he hears footsteps behind him. Instinctively he panics and casts Wind Ball, launching it in the direction of the noise. The spell hits a door, blowing it apart in a burst of wind and debris. Breathing heavily, he wonders if it was just the wind. He really thought he sensed someone nearby. As he peers through the blasted doorway, he's startled by what he sees: more blood scattered everywhere. He guesses someone must be injured inside. Given that they've survived this long, they're likely carrying valuable gear, and in their current weakened state he might even be able to take them down. There's probably a ton of rare loot in there. But after a moment's hesitation he chooses to prioritize survival. It's not worth the risk. He turns and walks away. Once he's gone, the scene lingers on the other side of the door. Something, or someone, is still in there. The man inside the house peeks out cautiously and sighs in relief. Did he leave? Thank God. He mutters that if he hadn't hidden quickly he would have been dead. Still, he grumbles that if he weren't injured he could have easily taken the guy out. Now he just needs to loot what's left and get out of here. But just as he moves, an arrow strikes him in the side of the head. Too late, he realizes he got baited. As his body begins to dissolve into particles, we see Se-Woong watching from a distance, quietly thanking him for falling for the trap. He wastes no time, moving in to loot quickly before heading to the edge of the restricted zone. Just then, a voice speaks up. It's the old man from earlier, the one who had been silently observing him. "You seem quite skilled," the man says. Se-Woong tenses, realizing he dropped his guard. But the old man calmly adds, "There's no need to be alarmed. I just want to ask a few questions." His tone is thoughtful, almost casual, like someone who's been through this countless times. Se-Woong, still wary, asks who he is. The old man responds, "It wouldn't matter if I told you. We've all lived different lives, so you likely wouldn't know me anyway." Se-Woong notes that the man feels completely different from everyone else he's encountered so far. There's something off. The old man then asks, "Have you participated in this kind of play before?" "Play?" Se-Woong echoes, confused. The old man continues, "I've been watching you for a while. You adapted quickly, and I'm sure you already realize, this world isn't real." Se-Woong wonders how long the old man had been watching him, and how he managed to go completely unnoticed. He admits this is his first time being brought to a place like this, but he's played similar games back in his own world. The old man raises an eyebrow, intrigued. "That's interesting," he says. Se-Woong replies that just by looking at him, it's obvious he's not from the same world. The old man nods, glancing up. "Looks like it's gotten dark." Se-Woong agrees. "Yeah, already day 3. The old man then asks, "Is the moon in your world as big as this one?" Se-Woong hadn't really paid attention until now but laughs and says, "No way. This moon's massive." The old man smirks. "Same in mine." Then, curious, he asks Se-Woong to explain the game he mentioned earlier. Se-Woong hesitates. "You sure you want to talk about this here? We could get ambushed at any moment." The old man concedes the point, saying the conversation might take a while anyway. "Let's go somewhere safer." Se-Woong eyes him warily. "And how do I know you won't kill me the moment we're alone?" In response, the old man grabs him and says quietly, "You know how this works. But if you don't want to become someone's target, stay silent." And with that, he launches into the trees, effortlessly carrying Se-Woong with him, leaping from branch to branch. They move so fast that the wind whips Se-Woong's cheeks back, flapping like a parachute caught in a storm. Se-Woong narrates in hindsight, "At the time, I had no idea what kind of consequences this encounter would bring. Later that night, in a more secluded spot after some back and forth, the old man comments, "Your world seems magical." Seo-won shrugs. "I'm not sure how to describe it. It's a place with a highly advanced civilization." "That explains why you've adjusted to this place so quickly," the old man says thoughtfully. Seo-won, still puzzled, finally asks the question that's been bothering him. "How long have you been watching me?" The old man replies without hesitation, "Since the very beginning, since the moment we were dropped into this world." Seo-won starts to wonder if the old man can read his mind. The old man responds calmly, saying that he had originally planned to spend the next 100 days enjoying the fresh mountain air, but he found Seo-won's actions too interesting to ignore. That curiosity is the only reason he approached him. He's not here to cause harm, so there's no need for Seo-won to be on edge. Seo-won admits he doesn't know much himself. The old man says there's something similar in his own world, and Seo-won explains that what they're experiencing here is essentially just a form of play back where he comes from, meant for fun where no one actually dies. That's why, when it comes to understanding the motives of whatever supernatural force brought them here, he's completely in the dark. The old man nods, processing it, and Seo-won adds that he's certain this game is a huge opportunity for someone. Intrigued, the old man asks what he means by that. Seo-won continues, explaining that he believes death in this game isn't the same as real death. When someone dies, they'll be given a rank and with it, a reward. He suspects the reward will be tied to the items they've collected while here. "You mean the things you're wearing?" the old man asks. "Not just these," Seo-won replies. "Even the skills, the techniques, the martial arts I've learned." "Oh, I don't have any proof yet." The old man muses aloud, saying that magic really is fascinating. "So you think this is truly an opportunity?" Seo-won responds, "Maybe not for someone like you. But for people struggling in the real world, people who feel stuck, these powers could completely change their lives." The old man glances at him quietly, then asks, "And what makes you think my life is without struggle?" Seo-won tells the old man that he seems like a martial arts master, someone who probably has followers and respect back in his world. That kind of life is nothing like his own, where he doesn't really have any role or value. That's why, for people like him who are struggling, this place is a huge opportunity. The old man bursts out laughing, loud and carefree, saying Seo-won sure knows how to say some interesting things. Seo-won quickly tells him to keep it down. The old man then points out that Seo-won keeps waving his hand at the air and asks what he's doing. Seo-won realizes he must not know how to open the system map, so he explains it to him. In return, the old man shares stories from his own world. They swap knowledge, tricks, and insights until before they know it, morning arrives. The old man gently taps the ground with his foot, acknowledging the new day. "Looks like I've taken up too much of your time," he says, letting go of Seo-won and setting him down. But Seo-won reassures him, "Not at all. Honestly, being around you might be the safest option I've got." He adds that he enjoyed listening to the old man's stories. The old man smiles and says that after learning so much about this game from Seo-won, he feels like he should offer something in return. Seo-won, without hesitation, asks if it would be possible to learn some of his martial arts. He says he truly wants to survive until the end, and for that, he'll need help. The old man studies him for a moment, then replies, "It's not impossible." Seo-won's eyes light up with hope, but the old man adds a warning, "You'd need to be ready for the worst." Seo-won frowns. "What do you mean?" "Death," the old man says bluntly. "To grow outside the normal path, you have to pay a heavy price. Are you prepared for that?" Seo-won responds, "I know I'm repeating myself, but people don't actually die here." The old man pauses, then nods thoughtfully. "If that's true, then perhaps that method could work after all. Would it make me stronger?" Seo-won asks. "At the very least," the old man replies, "it's worth a try." Seo-won asks what he should do first. The old man steps closer and places a palm on his head, closing his eyes to sense his energy. After a moment, he opens them, stunned. "Your inner energy is weaker than my dog's," he says, dead serious. "How the hell are you this weak?" Seo-won reminds him that there's no such thing as martial arts or inner energy in his world. The old man just nods and tells him to sit in the lotus position. He's still holding Seo-won's head like a basketball and calmly warns, "You're going to feel pain like you're dying, but you won't be able to move." Seo-won, already tense, asks, "And what am I supposed to do?" "Endure it," the old man says. "If you can't, you'll die." As the old man begins transferring his ki, Seo-won feels all his senses spike. Every breeze against his skin feels like razor blades. Even breathing hurts, as if the air itself is poisoned. It's like someone laced his body with pure agony. He can even hear ants crawling through the grass. Suddenly, a searing pain shoots through his lower dantian and rises upward. He screams as beams of energy burst from his mouth and eyes. Drenched in sweat, he begins to panic. Is this how I die? Then, in an instant, everything around him feels frozen. In that stillness, something begins to implant itself inside his body, some kind of energy core passed from the old man. In reality, he's just trembling and drenched in sweat. A moment later, the old man calmly says, "It's done." Siowon immediately lurches forward, fighting the urge to vomit, then gives in and throws up. The old man looks at him with approval. "If you manage to endure that, your body isn't bad. You've got natural potential. Once I fix your energy flow, you'll feel the difference." Siowon, still shaky, asks, "What do I have to do now?" The old man reminds him, "Didn't you say you wanted to become strong, fast?" Siowon confirms that he does want to become stronger, and the old man nods. He explains that he has temporarily pushed Siowon's soul slightly out of alignment and opened an inspiratory gate in that space. Normally, people are only able to absorb the world's energy, or ki, through breathing. But now, with this new gate, Siowon can absorb a different, more specialized form of energy beyond just breath. Siowon asks, "So what exactly has changed?" The old man replies, "Every person is made up of the mind, body, and soul, and those three are bound together by life ki." He then asks Siowon to guess what happens to that life ki when a person dies. Siowon thinks for a moment and says, "It disappears?" The old man shakes his head. "Wrong." To illustrate, we see an image of a water droplet resting on a leaf. As it falls, the old man continues, explaining that life ki doesn't vanish, it disperses. Just like how water spreads out when it hits the ground, life ki diffuses into the environment when a person dies. It's absorbed back into nature, becoming part of the life cycle once more. But, he adds, some people view this natural process as a waste. There are those who go so far as to kill, intentionally harvesting the life ki of others. However, those who pursue that path live in a constant state of imbalance. Sooner or later, the disharmony between their yin and yang causes them to lose their martial abilities, or worse, die. The technique the old man just passed on to Siowon is different. It allows him to absorb scattered life ki like those individuals, but without disturbing his internal balance. With it, Siowon can gradually increase his inner energy, drawing power from what others leave behind. Siowon asks, half-joking, if the old man just handed him a guaranteed death sentence. The old man chuckles and explains that Siowon's case is different. Unlike those who forcibly reconstructed their energy pathways to open a gate, he used Siowon's soul to create one. Since Siowon didn't have any inner energy to begin with, his body was like a blank canvas. It made him the perfect candidate. Instead of clashing with existing energy, his body could absorb life ki harmoniously. "Now do you understand why I gave you a mind technique that's forbidden in Jangun?" the old man asks. Siowon thinks for a moment, then says, "It must be because of the game's setting." The old man smiles. "Exactly. I like how fast you catch on." He goes on to explain that he felt it yesterday. Whenever someone dies in this world, a trace of life ki lingers in the air. The core issue with this mind technique is that, in the real world, it thrives on killing. But here, killing is part of the rules. To survive, one has to eliminate others. By the time 100 days are up, Siowon will have reached an entirely new level. With that, the old man says it's time for them to part ways. It'd be nice to cross paths again someday. "Wait," Siowon calls out. "You've helped me so much, I at least want to know your name." The old man turns with a soft smile. "The name's Jang Dakian. Most call me the Deep Valley Standing Kindly. And the mind technique I passed down to you, it's called White Martial Physique Arts." Siowon bows deeply. "I'll never forget this." Jang Dakian advises him to get used to deep, steady breathing. As long as he keeps drawing in inner energy through his dantian, his strength will steadily grow. Then he opens the system map, just as Siowon had taught him, and comments on how useful it is. "I'll see you again if fate allows it," he says before leaping into the air, soaring off with ease. Siowon nods, watching as the old man vanishes into the sky. He watches as the old man vanishes into the distance and mutters, "He disappeared so fast, as expected. If he could use the same Kwangong movement techniques, he'd be able to travel just as effortlessly." For now, he sticks to the plan and starts making his way back to the outskirts. He was abducted to the center in an instant, but the journey back on foot takes him half a day. Eventually, he finds himself crouched in some bushes in front of a familiar sight, a house with its lights still on. "Same as last time," he mutters. "Either nobody's inside, or it's some clueless newbie who doesn't know how to turn off the lights. Either way, he decides he's going in. He rushes toward the house, carefully enters and sweeps the area room by room. As he moves through the house, the upstairs light suddenly shuts off. He smirks. Knew it. Time to loot. But after searching the place thoroughly, he sighs in frustration. What a waste of time. Aside from a small healing scroll and some jerky, the house is practically empty. Just junk, he mutters. Came all this way for nothing. Yawning, he realizes how exhausted he is. Didn't get a second of sleep last night, talked the elder's ear off. With fatigue setting in, he decides it's time to rest. Curling up somewhere safe, he falls into a deep sleep. Morning arrives peacefully. It's now day 5. Seo-won is still fast asleep on the floor when the sound of approaching footsteps begins to echo nearby. A voice speaks up just outside the room saying, "So this house isn't empty after all." The words jolt Seo-won awake. He instantly senses the person is right outside the door and slowly reaches for his crossbow. How could I let myself be so careless? He thinks, bracing himself. As the door creaks open, the man steps inside, mumbling about finally being able to rest, only to stop in shock as he finds himself staring down the barrel of a crossbow. Without hesitation, Seo-won pulls the trigger. The bolt launches toward the intruder, but with a quick flash of steel, the man slices it cleanly in half with his sword. Seo-won curses under his breath. Great. A martial artist, this is going to be a pain. Without wasting a second, he reaches into his subspace and pulls out a set of throwing knives, channeling his Black Star technique into them. He launches them at the man, who manages to block one with his arm and scoffs, calling Seo-won a coward for using hidden weapons. Seo-won doesn't flinch. He closes the distance and grabs the man by the side of the head, slamming him hard onto the floor. Before the man can recover, Seo-won kicks his weapon away and stands over him. "I was having a nice dream," Seo-won says coldly. "Then you had to wake me up." He raises another crossbow bolt, ready to end it. The man panics, begging for his life. "Please? I'll do anything, take whatever you want. Just don't kill me. I fought so hard just to survive." But Seo-won doesn't hesitate. He drives the bolt straight into the man's forehead. A kill notification flashes. Orong has been eliminated by a headshot. Seo-won exhales and mutters, "I fought too hard to die here too." Then, after Orong's death, we see that a chest was left behind to be looted. However, there's a green aura surrounding the chest. This must be what Elder Jang Dokyeon was talking about. Then the green energy begins to flow through his bloodied hands. Life chi. So this is how he's going to grow stronger. The energy starts coursing through his entire body as if being absorbed. His body is overflowing with strength. Is this what they call inner energy? Even though he absorbed the life energy of only one person, his body feels light and he feels much stronger. So he decides to open the status system to check. Traits: Martial Artist. Inner Energy, 20. Mana, 30. Now he has a separate stat for that. Is it at 20 because he received that man's inner energy? The Elder gave the protagonist an impressive power that he won't let go to waste. He knows he shouldn't rely solely on killing to accumulate life chi, but should also find other ways. He wonders how many people are still alive. So he decides to open the system window for the number of players. However, he's shocked. What the hell? Number of players, 24 out of 100. Only 24? And it's only the 5th day. Then he decides to check the kill log. Someone just died right now, so the number of players is already down to 23. Nam Sagwon killed the player Carl Verstappen. Then we see a dead player with his final words being, Nam Sagwon. We see that he has a massive hole in his chest as if he had taken a punch that went straight through his stomach. Then, another chest is left on the ground to be looted. He thought the guy was strong just because he approached him on his own. Now his hand is all dirty for no good reason. Hasn't he already killed enough of them? When is this going to end? So he decides to open the system window for the number of players. There are still 22 players alive. How annoying. Then he notices something strange, the log right before his own. Jin Seo-won? He thinks he's seen that bastard's name before. Nam Sagwon. He's definitely the one who has killed the most so far. Technically, he's the MVP. He needs to avoid that player at all costs. He barely managed to defeat a weak opponent. He still has a long way to go to reach Nam Sagwang's level. He needs to finish farming before the restricted zone gets smaller. From Orong's chest, the only good thing he got was a refined troll potion. The rest were useless items. Then again, if Orong had an elixir or something truly valuable, he probably wouldn't have died so easily. After that, he decided to hide and survive until the number of players dropped further. 1 week later, we see some wolves. He realizes how lucky he was at the start of the game. He didn't manage to loot much because he spent most of the time hiding, and the equipment he got was all trash. Great. That thing is his meal today. So he hits the monster with an arrow, and after it dies, it turns into chunks of meat. At least he stayed in the forest near the borders of the restricted zone, so he didn't run into any enemies. He's so tired of dried meat, man. Survival in Cloyd, day 12. Only 20 players remain now. We see him looking at what seems to be a barrier. He then decides to try passing through it but ends up hurting himself. He figures he probably won't even be able to move inside there. For an entire week, the kill log only showed Nam Sagwang killing everyone. Seems like everyone else is hiding and playing it safe just like him. Then he hears a thunderous noise. He sees a massive cloud of smoke. Looks like there's a big fight going on over there. Then we see Sagwang panting. Who the hell are you guys? All of us gathered with the same goal, to take you down. There's no way you're winning this. Die quietly, Nam Sagwang. Then we see a group made up of at least 7 people. Warriors, samurais, barbarians, mages. So all of you teamed up just to take down one guy? Well, he should be thankful. They saved him the trouble of hunting each of them down one by one. Since they're ready to kill him, he's certain they're also prepared to face the same fate, right? With an intimidating look, he delivers a threat. He's going to make sure everyone here understands what that really means. In an instant, he leaps into the sky, rising above all his enemies. Get him. Don't let him escape. Then he dives toward one of them, placing his hand on the person's head. Alright, this one's first. Then, using sheer brute strength, he crushes the enemy's head. Holy shit, how the hell did that bastard pull that off? The mage screams. Now it's 2. Then 3. Then 4. He starts killing them one by one, severing hands, decapitating heads, slashing open stomachs. That wasn't a battle. It was a one-sided massacre. The kill log made that very clear. We see him as if he were a bloodthirsty demon, insatiable and relentless. Nam Sangwang is destined to win the game, unless something completely unexpected happens. Siwon is in shock as he sees the death notifications. There were at least 9 deaths in just a matter of seconds. That bastard, he's insane. 9 kills at once? Seriously? That piece of shit must be using some kind of cheat. We see Sagwang with his face covered in blood. Haha, that group was nothing. Just a bunch of weaklings who teamed up with other weaklings. But damn, this smell of blood is disgusting. They should have died without putting up a fight. He doesn't understand why they even scream. We see several chests on the ground, and near them, a beautiful mage's staff covered in blood. He should find a place to wash himself off. So he walks away. As night falls, we see the items still lying in the same spot, untouched. Someone starts to approach and decides to take the staff. This is Elizabeth's gear. Then we see that it's the elf mage from the beginning of the match. He swears in the name of Escrow. He will avenge her, Elizabeth. Alright, only 11 people are left. If he can hold out just a little longer, he'll make it into the top 10. But after witnessing the chaos earlier, if he wants to survive against a raid boss like that, he needs to get some really good items. By tomorrow morning, that mansion will probably be outside the safe zone. It's the last spot for a decent farming opportunity. So he decides to sneak into the mansion quietly. Wow, how extravagant. This really is a fine mansion. With marble statues, plenty of space, it's likely to have some incredible loot. Guard Royal's armor. Strength insufficient, 110 required. Do you wish to take it? He doesn't have enough strength. Carrying it would only get in the way. After all, he only has 30 strength. What bad luck. He figures there must be more here. Then on a bookshelf he spots 2 glowing items. An elixir that boosts inner energy. Duration 3 hours. Do you wish to take it? An elixir? If he uses this, could he really gain inner energy without absorbing life energy? This mansion is turning out to be a real treasure trove. Ha! You have learned a secret technique, Unstoppable Fist. Do you wish to use this item? No way, he even managed to get a martial arts manual. Still, just like with the Circle Stone's ability, he'll have to sit somewhere for 3 hours to absorb the elixir. While searching for loot, he notices something unusual. A wine cellar? There's probably something inside. But before he can check, a massive explosion goes off. He quickly realizes the fire is heading straight toward him. He narrowly escapes by jumping out of the nearest window. What the hell was that? Where did all that fire come from? Shit, he starts running for his life. He throws himself into a bush near the house. He was sure no one had followed him here. How could this have happened? Wait, It's that guy he saw back in the waiting room. Then we see the elf mage again. He was the one who caused the fire. To think he actually survived that explosion. So it wasn't just luck that he managed to kill all those people and come out alive. He'll make sure to remember his name, Nam Sagwang. The mage then begins to levitate into the sky, with the beautiful reflection of the moon behind him. What the hell is this old man talking about? Sagwang doesn't understand the reason behind his anger. If he had just kept his mouth shut, it wouldn't have been anything. If he has time to spit nonsense, then he'd better use it to fight instead of wasting it. We can see that his arm is already badly injured, leaving him able to fight with only one hand. Let's see how long he can keep talking like that. Back to you, the same Nam Sagwang who was on a killing spree, is he really just a kid?
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps. And for more content like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see another part. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time. Bye-bye.